What's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Kevy Eats World. On this episode, we are going to make 5 super easy dishes for Super Bowl Sunday. I absolutely love the Super Bowl. I love football, and I love to entertain. Entertaining can be super stressful, so really the concept behind these dishes is something that takes minimal prep, super easy to make, but will also be delicious. I think the one thing that most people do when they entertain that gets them overwhelmed is they try to they overcomplicate the dishes. You know, I think most people want to make the most fantastic dish, every dish for your guests, which you don't really have to do. All you have to do is make super good food with just quality ingredients that people are going to enjoy. So in this episode, we're going to walk through 5 as I said before, recipes. This first part, we're going to talk through the prep ahead of time, and then we're going to come back and actually finish the dishes. So the first of which, we're going to start, as you can see, we have a lot of things going on here, but it'll be simple, I promise. The first will be wings. Can't have a Super Bowl without wings. So all I did with these wings ahead of time is I just tossed them in some seasonings, whatever seasoning you like. I'll put a little picture in here so you can see what I used. And then the key is going to be putting a little bit of baking powder, and we're just going to put these in the fridge for a couple hours. The key is going to be, we want the skin to dry out, so when we put them in the oven, we'll get a nice crispy skin. The next thing that we're going to work on here is some ribs. And so again, I just put some seasoning on these ribs ahead of time. I've had them in the fridge for a little over an hour. And then we're going to do oven baked ribs. Obviously you want to smoke ribs if you want to have the best ribs you ever had. But again, here, this is all about simplicity. And the oven baked ribs that I like to make are absolutely delicious and something that you'll really want. So really what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and finish these ribs, throw them in the oven, then we'll work on the other appetizers. Okay, so to finish the ribs, we're going to use a little yellow mustard. We're going to use a little bit of an IPA. I wrap them first, throw them in the oven, and then we'll finish them unwrapped. I like yellow mustard because I think it's a little bit of a tenderizer. Helps also add a little bit of flavor to the meat, and any excuse for me to throw mustard on something I'm going to. So you don't need a ton. You're just going to throw a little bit on each side. Just rub it into the ribs here. Go ahead and do the same process here. You want to start the ribs early because they're going to take about 4.5 hours. So this is something that you want to do early in the morning to get ready for Super Bowl Sunday. And we're going to go ahead and simply, all you're going to do is you're going to take aluminum foil. You're going to put your ribs. You want to create a cap in the end of the ribs, something to hold the liquid in. And you're going to wrap. You're going to put the second piece of aluminum foil down. You're going to pour a little bit of beer into there. Again, we're just something to steam the ribs and add a little bit of extra flavor. You're going to cap the other end. You're going to wrap tightly. And then we're just going to repeat with the second. We have our oven preheated at 250 degrees, and we're just going to go ahead and throw these in. And we'll set a timer for 2 hours. All right. Okay, so now the next recipe, super simple. We're just going to have some of these frozen Swedish meatballs. We're going to put them in a crock pot here. And then this is just a 3-ingredient dish. We're going to take some barbecue sauce. I would say maybe about half the bottle in here. It's probably pretty good. And then we're going to take grape jelly. I know it sounds weird, but these come out super good. We'll probably do maybe 3/4 of the jar of grape jelly. We're going to mix these in. Then we're going to put this on high for 4 hours, and we'll have 4.5 hours, and then you can let them simmer until your guests arrive. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're gonna make some shredded chicken. This is actually a really good thing to do just for a meal prep for the week. If, you know, like you're like my wife and I were working with a young child and you want something to be prepped ahead of time, you know, shredded chicken by itself can be super delicious, or, you know, you can make a bunch of different type of recipes. For this shredded chicken, we're going to use it for nachos, and we're also going to make buffalo chicken taquitos, which we'll do a little bit later. So for this, you know, you're just going to put the chicken breasts here comfortably in the crock pot. I'm just gonna put a little bit of olive oil, not a ton here. Just a little bit of salt and pepper, not gonna go crazy with it. And then we're gonna use my absolute favorite seasoning, this rosemary herb rub from Pampered Chef. I use this on my wings. I use this on chicken. It has absolutely just delicious flavor. And again, we're just getting a little bit of flavor here, but most of the flavor is going to come towards the end when we start mixing in all the other ingredients. And then, because we don't want the chicken to dry out, we're just going to put a little bit of bone broth. I love bone broth. I put it on everything. You can use chicken stock or vegetable stock, or you can use water, really. You just want some liquid in here to really steam these so you can shred them at the end. And again, we're going to go ahead and put this on high for 4 hours. And so now that this stuff is prepped, really, the next time we'll get together, it's going to be taking the ribs out of the tin foil, and then they'll go in the oven for another hour or so. And then at the end, we're going to shred some chicken, make some nachos and taquitos, and we'll be ready to serve our guests. In the meantime, I'm going to go work out and see you in a couple hours. All right, so it's been about, 2 hours and 45 minutes. We're going to go ahead and take the ribs out of the foil. They're going to be super tender at this point, but you're going to want to finish them uncovered in the oven. We'll probably let these go for another hour, and then we'll start adding some barbecue sauce so it gets a really nice flavor on them. Typically, I might consider keeping the rendered juices, especially if I was going to make a barbecue sauce of my own. But again, for today, we want to make everything super simple. So, you know, trying to make a barbecue sauce on your own just might add too much stress to the already hectic day. So we're just going to use good old Sweet Baby Ray's to finish this off. But we're going to do that later on. For now, we're just going to let these go in the oven uncovered like this, again, for about an hour, and then we'll start doing barbecue sauce. It smells absolutely delicious. All right, so the ribs are almost done to start basting with barbecue sauce. The chicken is done. The meatballs are actually done as well, so I'm going to switch that to warm until everything is done. At this point, you'll want to take your cream cheese out so that it can come to room temperature, so when it's time to do the mixture for the taquitos, it'll mix nice and smoothly. So at this point, all we're simply going to do is we're going to take our chicken breasts out. You just want to put them into a bowl that's big enough for the chicken breasts to fit into. And these smell absolutely delicious as well. And then simply with 2 forks, you're just going to get in there and you're going to shred your chicken. Now there's a lot of flavor already in the chicken. Again, as we continue to build our flavors on our dishes, we can decide what flavoring that we want to put into different things. And then once your chicken is all shredded, what I would recommend doing is just taking a little bit of this liquid from the pot here and putting it into the chicken. That way the chicken will retain moisture. And then we'll just hold this on the side. You can put it in the fridge to cool down a little bit. That doesn't matter, as you know, it's going to get warmed up again in the different dishes. And we're one step closer to having all the appetizers done. So at this point, the ribs are pretty much done. I've already basted them once with barbecue sauce. We're still gonna finish the ribs in the oven at the end, but we have to change the temperature of the oven for the rest of the appetizers. So I have the oven going at 425 degrees. So the first thing that we wanna do is we wanna put the wings in the oven. Now remember, the wings have been in the refrigerator for about 3 or 4 hours now, with a combination of the seasoning, salt, and a little bit of baking powder. The point of the refrigerator is to let the skin air dry, which essentially will allow the moisture to release from the skin, so that when we bake it, we still try to obtain that crispy skin as if we were frying it. So we're gonna go ahead and throw these in the oven now. These are probably gonna take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, but we'll monitor that as we go. We might have to flip once or twice. Now, while the wings are going, we can finish preparing the rest of the appetizer. So I have some taquitos here, and then we have some tacos. So for the taquitos, I've already pre-rolled a few of these, but essentially this mixture is some of the shredded chicken, chopped, chopped artichokes. Thank you, the assist from my wife. Cream cheese, and a little bit of shredded cheddar jack cheese. And so essentially, to make these super easy, you're just gonna put the moisture at the end of the tortilla. You're gonna squeeze them just tight like you would, if you were gonna roll a cigar. And then simply just roll those up. And so we're gonna bake these probably for about 20 minutes. So about like halfway, quarter of the way through, 3/4 of the way through the wings being done. We'll go ahead and throw those in, but these are prepped and ready to go. And then the nachos, again, I'll prep now. We'll probably bake these for 10 or 15 minutes. The cool thing with nachos is you can really do whatever you want here. So for the shredded chicken, we're not gonna put any more flavor on it. You could add buffalo, barbecue. If you wanted to make this Asian style, you certainly could, but we're just gonna keep this simple because we already have a couple barbecue and buffalo dishes. And so, really it's just spreading out the ingredients that you like. And I think everyone knows with nachos, the key is to try to get as many even bites as you'd like, but you don't want to put too much on the nacho because you won't really let them get crispy. And again, these are just store-bought tortilla chips that you would just eat, with salsa and, any other condiments that you might like. We're going to do a little bit of refried bean on here, not a lot of it. I love refried beans, and I think they go super well with nachos. And we'll put a couple dollops here. Nothing crazy. And then really the rest of the ingredients are up to you. I love red onion. Any excuse I have to put onions on things, I will. My wife loves black olives, so any excuse she gets for me to put olives on things, we certainly will. Pickled jalapenos. I just bought these at the store, but you can certainly make your own pickled jalapenos. It's super easy. You're just going to boil some water with salt and sugar and vinegar, and then just pour them over the jalapenos, let it sit for as long as you want for pickling. And then I'm going to put tomatoes. I'm only going to put them on one half of the nachos because my wife absolutely detests tomatoes. And then we're just going to go ahead and top it with cheese. You can be generous with the cheese. You're not going to hurt anyone. And then really, when you put these in the oven, it's going to be entirely up to you. I'd probably throw them in when guests start arriving, just because they're quicker bakes. And so, guests may not want to eat right away, but they're going to want to eat relatively quickly. And this is stuff that, can sit for a little while and be pretty good. And so we're going to let the wings go for a little while. We're going to finish these up in the oven. We're going to finish the ribs, and then we're essentially just going to set these things out for our imaginary people to come over today. It's just going to be me and my wife eating. So we're going to have a leftover for a few days, but we're going to have a really delicious meal. We pretty much have everything here. The last thing that we need to do is just get the ribs out of the oven. We'll cut them up and we'll finish them. All right, these look absolutely delicious. We're just going to cut them into more palatable bites for your guests. And we'll go ahead and finish these off. With ribs, you just have to find the bone of where you want to put these in. Usually cut them in twos. And then obviously you have to make as much mess you're cooking. All right, and so from a presentation perspective, probably the last thing I'll do here is just top these off with a little bit of barbecue sauce. And so in each one of these, I put just a little bit of sour cream and salsa, green onion, a little bit of green onion here, just a little bit of sriracha at the top, a little bit of barbecue sauce and a little bit of buffalo sauce, and you have an absolutely delicious meal for all your guests. It should be plenty of food for you're probably, maybe 10 to 12 people. Some other things that you consider to do. You could do shrimp cocktails, just boiling shrimp for a couple minutes. You could do baked ziti. You could do mac and cheese. You can do flatbreads, which are super easy. The idea is you want to use the oven for your friends. If you like this video, please like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time on Kevin Eats World.